What if a single object in a house held the power to foretell death? What if visitors whispered of unearthly presences, phantom cars rolling up empty driveways, and a cursed chair that seemed to challenge mortality itself? Today, we travel to Philadelphia's Chestnut Hill neighborhood and into the forbidding halls of Balleroy Mansion, once called America's most haunted home, where locals claim there was a clock that predicted death, a blue chair that kills, and ghosts that refuse to rest. In this video, I'll take you room by room through the legends and the facts, uncover personal testimonies, highlight eerie coincidences, and pose the bold question: is there anything rational behind this house's chilling reputation? Stay with me, because some of what you'll hear is stranger than fiction. If you love deep dives into haunted places and unsolved mysteries, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. You won't want to miss what's ahead. The Balleroy Mansion sits at 111 West Mermaid Lane in the Chestnut Hill section of Philadelphia. Built in 1911, it was a grand stone estate with dozens of rooms, secret compartments, and a long, sloping driveway that added to its dramatic presence. In 1925 to 1926, the Easby family purchased it. George Meade Easby, great-grandson of Civil War hero General George Meade, and his brother Stephen, sometimes called Stevie, were the children living there. The name Balleroy was chosen by Easby, likely after Balleroy in France, a place the family favored. From the beginning, tragedy and odd tales seemed woven into the mansion's walls. The story that captured many imaginations was this: soon after the family moved in, the young boy Stevie became fixated on the mansion's ornate fountain. He would stare at it for long stretches, and his brother George once walked by the fountain and saw Stevie's reflection appear skeletal, ghost-like in the water. That vision, if one can call it so, was later said to have foretold Stevie's death. He died as a child from a cerebral blood clot, though the link to the mansion's curse is a point of fervent debate. That early trauma may have seeded the house's ghostly reputation. Adding to the lore was the mansion's treasure trove of antiques, rare artifacts, and even secret rooms. Over the years, many of those objects themselves became part of the haunting legends. Every painting, clock, and piece of furniture seemed to gather haunted whispers. Now, to the heart of our mystery, the clock that could predict death. This is one of those tales that slips between fact and rumor. Some accounts speak of a grand mantle or grandfather clock in the mansion whose chime or hands would misbehave before a death, slowing, stopping, striking at unnatural hours, or behaving erratically just before someone died. Other tellings suggest the clock would count down to the moment of passing. However, and this is crucial, I found no solid archival documentation showing a clock with confirmed prophetic powers in Balleroy. The better documented paranormal legends focus on the blue chair in the blue room. We'll get there shortly, and phantom cars, electrical disturbances, and ghostly figures. So while the death clock feels like a compelling hook, and is often repeated in local lore or ghost-tour retellings, it remains more in the realm of legend than verifiable record. That said, some stories hint at clock-related anomalies. For example, visitors and workers claimed clocks would stop dead when someone's health soured, or alarms and timers would go haywire. These stories are often anecdotal, recounted decades later, and tend to cluster around times when a death or serious illness occurred. But without corroboration from diaries, newspapers, or the family archives, we must treat them cautiously. Still, legends grow stronger in darkness. The very idea of a clock predicting death taps into deep human fears of fate, control, and mortality. In a house obsessed with time, with its antiques, heirlooms, and ghost stories, the notion of a ticking prophecy becomes irresistible. So while the death clock may not be a verified artifact, it acts as a powerful symbol in the tapestry of Balleroy's lore. If any single object is more tangible in legend than the death clock, it's the blue chair in the blue room, often nicknamed the Chair of Death. The Blue Room is a formal drawing room within the house, a space of elegance and hidden corners, lined not just with paintings, but with secret compartments and antique intrigue. The legend goes like this: the chair, upholstered in vivid blue fabric, is cursed. Anyone who sits in it is said to have died within days or weeks. Some versions say the chair was once owned by Napoleon or connected to him, and that it may even have been crafted by a warlock in the 18th or 19th century. Accounts vary on numbers, but some claim 3 or 4 people died after sitting in it. One version, a housekeeper sitting in the chair, slumped over and died hours later. Another, a friend or cousin of Easby, died after occupying it. And still others, visitors or museum curators, mysteriously passed away weeks later. George Mead Easby himself forbade anyone from sitting in that chair. He reportedly claimed that in at least one instance, 2 psychics visited, and one witnessed a spirit named Amelia manifest, while another was overcome with dread and urged him to cleanse the room. Skeptics argue these are coincidences. People die, chairs exist. But for believers, the pattern is enough. The room is an epicenter of supernatural energy. Some say the chair emits or is surrounded by a red mist or aura that kills. One fascinating detail, in the mansion's archives and in ghost tour brochures, the deaths are often described as sudden and inexplicable, with no medical cause. But in practice, the historical tracking is patchy and lacks modern forensic support. Still, the blue chair legend looms large in Balleroy's aura. It draws the curious, the bold, the fearful, and every time someone whispers its name, the mansion's reputation grows. Beyond clocks and cursed furniture, Balleroy Mansion is saturated in ghost stories. Over decades, multiple witnesses from family members, workers, visitors, even renovators have reported strange phenomena, phantom cars. Perhaps one of the most repeated stories is that of 1930s-era automobiles rolling up the mansion's long driveway at night. Their engines heard, but no car ever seen when investigated. Then the sound fades. Electrical and alarm disturbances, lights flickering, circuits shorting, alarms going off unprompted, and electricity inexplicably failing. The lore describes ghosts playing with power, apparitions, and figures. Among them, a young boy presumed to be Stevie, an elderly woman walking with a cane, and even claims of a ghost of Thomas Jefferson appearing near the mansion's dining room clock. Physical interactions. One account describes Easby waking from sleep, feeling someone clutch his arm. When he turned on the light, no one was there. Another reports a minister being struck by a flying antique pot. Seances and ectoplasm in early promotional pamphlets and Hauster lore. Seance gatherings were held, with some attendees claiming ectoplasmic manifestations. Let me draw your attention to one particularly telling anecdote. In 1999, Easby told the Philadelphia Inquirer that he once awoke to feel someone gripping his arm. He snapped on the lights, but no one was there. Over the years, he hosted ghost hunting events and entertained guests by retelling reported haunting. When Balleroy's antiques were sold off and relocated after Easby's death, many felt the spirits waned, almost as if tied to those objects. The current owners, Jay and Susie Valinas, purchased 2012, admit they hear knocks, see shadowy movements, and occasionally the motion sensor alarm trips late at night when no one is there. Susie once claimed she saw the reflection of a small blonde boy in a mirror, but when she turned, no child was present. Yet the Valinises also approach the house with a grounded attitude. They accept old house noises and structural quirks. They even had the place blessed when they moved in. They've said, if anything lingers, let it linger quietly. One more curious twist: the mansion's clocks, alarms, and pendulums seem constantly in flux. Some clocks freeze, others race ahead. One report describes a mantel clock that would tick slower when someone was ill, almost as if measuring mortality itself. These stories echo the death clock lore, even if concrete proof remains elusive. In short, Balleroy is a nexus of haunted legend, where the unexplained thrives. Before embracing every ghostly tale, it's important to step back and examine what we do know and what we can't. First, Balleroy was a wealthy estate filled with antiques, rare objects, complex wiring, and multiple clocks and mechanisms. In old houses, clocks and electrical systems often falter naturally. A pendulum clock slowing, a fuse blowing, or a motion sensor glitching can seem uncanny in a haunted context, but might have a benign explanation. Second, memory and storytelling play strong roles. Many reported hauntings are recounted years later, sometimes in ghost interest books or interviews. Witnesses may unconsciously exaggerate or reinterpret experiences in light of the house's reputation. Once a house is believed haunted, you start hearing things. Third, confirmation bias matters. Visiting a haunted house, every little noise turns into a ghost story. The more tales you hear, the more you start expecting, and maybe even seeing, those spooky spirits. Fourth, the death chair claims often lack strict medical or forensic evidence. Some deaths attributed to it may have had natural, diagnosable causes unknown to the storytellers. Even so, I don't dismiss all paranormal possibility. One reason Balleroy's legend is compelling is the sheer consistency of its stories over decades. Multiple independent accounts mention the same core motifs: a blue chair, phantom cars, electrical anomalies, ghostly children. That coherence adds weight. Finally, the clock that predicted death may be the weakest thread. There's no archival newspaper or estate document confirming its behavior, but as a narrative thread, it's powerful, tying together time, mortality, and dread. So what do we make of Balleroy Mansion and its whispered prophecy of death? We have a grand, antique-filled mansion with a haunting reputation, tragic early deaths, and decades of ghost lore. The death clock remains more myth than fact, but the blue chair in the blue room, the patterns of reports, and the layered personal stories give the house an aura of mystery that persists. My best guess theory: Balleroy's legends blend real tragedy, suggestive architecture, antique quirks, and collective imagination. The clock prophecy may be a later embellishment on deeper, older cores: the chair, the ghost children, the flickering lights, and the sense that time and death danced in its corridors. But here's the thing: even if we can rationalize many incidents, the mansion still holds its power because we want the mystery. Ghost stories tell us about mortality, about places clinging to past lives, about how we fill silence with stories. Now I turn to you. What do you believe actually happened at Balleroy? Was there a haunted clock, or did storytellers polish legend into myth? Could the blue chair have had some dark history? Do you find some of the ghost stories credible? Drop your theories in the comments below. I can't wait to read them. If you enjoyed exploring Balleroy with me, give this video a like, share with others curious about haunted history, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next eerie journey. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes the ghost is in the eye of the beholder.